to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody. I love the intro music, and sometimes I get carried away, and I'll be singing with it. And thank goodness I didn't do that today. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name's Tom Dutta, like Butta, and we're here live streaming. It's the next generation of broadcasting. So we're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And if you're on the feed, you can actually chat with the guest and myself through the chat feature. So I'll be looking for that. And today we got a great story to tell. In fact, this lady that I met, it was through a booking agent for my show. I was blown away by the depth of the work she does and the story. In fact, connected on so many levels. It's great to see you. So, usually the shows are produced where they have the little intro and they afterwards they tape something and stick it in about introducing you. I'm going to actually just embarrass you and introduce you myself. You've got a great background. This is what came to me, everybody, in the biography. Lisa is an American author, licensed social worker. And by the way, we talked just a minute ago, and you were in Florida. A year ago, you were in Texas. Wow. Yep. And I'm on the west coast of Vancouver, Canada, everybody. She's a social worker, flight attendant, animal rescuer. She spent 13 years in the aviation industry, jetting across the globe, collecting inspiration for her writings. She had a debut novel, Flight Path. It's a fast-paced romance laced with serendipitous encounters. Boy, those words are getting my excited. The book follows a daydreaming stewardess as she learns to navigate a new terrain, unconditional love. And then the next one is a second novel, Mid-Flight. And so that's what we're going to be talking a lot about today, because that's the book that I've read, and I'm going to surprise you with some exciting review I've done for that. Just to tell us a little bit about this thing with the animal rescue part. Let's just have some fun here. What animals do you have, and tell us their names?
Sure. So I have 2 cats and a dog. I have Boston, Kit Kat, and then my dog is Stella. So those are my permanent fur babies. But yes, Kit Kat, like the candy bar. But I have a revolving door of foster animals. So I partner with several different organizations, and I'm on the leadership board for my airline's animal transport team. So I have my hand in a couple different rescues, but I tell you, I like to joke that the animals just find me, because I just, every time I get a foster cat or dog adopted, and it's just this sense of elation, like, okay, another life saved, and I'm so thrilled. And then somehow another animal in need just walks into my life, walks straight into my heart. And then I'm back to square one with another foster in the house. So I've kind of just accepted it. My animals are troopers. They're good sports, because there are many strangers that come stay with us for a bit before they get adopted. And my animals are just kind of like, okay, Mom, who did you bring home now?
I just love it. And that's part of what the show's about, everybody, the hero's journey, which is really, see, Lisa's telling us a story now. Lisa Wilkes, I should make sure I say your last name for the podcast crew. But you're telling me a story, and this is what's happening to me. My brain now is taking in that story. I'm a bit of a geek about neuroscience, so pardon me. It's actually something I'm working on because of my brain injury. But Lisa, and to the audience, it's a teaching moment, because everybody, I could ask Lisa just crafted questions and have her go on and on, facts and figures. But when somebody tells you a story, if you put an MRI on your brain, it actually lights up multiple parts of my brain. So she got into the part that likes characters, and particularly I like characters that have stories, and they sometimes will end up in happy endings. But that triggers emotion in me, Lisa. So let me tell you where my brain went when you said about Kit Kat. Okay, this is how powerful you are and why I love you in your story, your ability to write and create. I thought about my daughter, who's 24 years old. Her name's Kalinda. She's across the country. I get emotional because I haven't seen her. She's in university. And she has 2 cats, Mars and, oh gosh, she's going to hate me for. So I'm thinking about her now. In that, as soon as you were talking about it and said Kit Kat, I was thinking about Mars and the other cat, and they're rescues. And I miss her. But I'm living through you, and you got me emotional. So now it's like, I'll never forget you. But the other thing I thought about is my miniature Shih Tzu, Shadow, who used to sit down here in the studio with me. She passed a few years ago, but she was 16 years old. So I had such a great experience. And part of me, Lisa, I started experiencing a little bit of regret, a little sadness, not because she passed, but I really learned something that here you are bringing in rescue animals, giving animals who need a second chance. And I was asking myself when you were talking, I wonder if I was kind enough to baby Shadow. Did I treat her well enough? Did I ignore her too much? So these are all the thoughts that are going on in my head. So taking on that other journey, and I'll finish with the last one. Now, as you're talking, I'm kind of looking behind you going, I hope one of those animals pop up in your screen there. And
they're around here, so it is it's likely to happen.
Yeah. So let's just I'm going to talk back and let you take things forward with some thoughts. I just wanted to use that as an example of why I think you are amazing in what you do for a living. Is you write stories, fiction novels. And I want to just plug something here. Hold up that book that you have. We were just say the title out loud for us.
It's Mid-Flight.
Yeah, everybody, guess what? I got one too.
Oh, matching.
And I'll turn the covers over because there's so much cool stuff on the back. So congratulations on this book. And do you remember when I got your introduction to come on the show? I got the usual standard bio. Here's my stuff. Here's how great I am. And that's kind of what I just read. And I always in my little mind say, that's BS. Like, come on, there's lots more to this lady because life's not a straight line up. And I asked you this question and you had written me back. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
How did it make you feel when I asked you that question? What did you go through in your mind and as you started writing?
So I do consider myself a fairly straightforward person. I like to kind of own the title of being an open book as a human being. And so I do enjoy delving into, a deeper look at the things that kind of make me tick and the things that have shaped me into the person that I am, the things I'm working on, the things that I consider my strong suits. So it's not difficult for me to talk about my personality, my past. I also have spent a lot of time really working through a lot of kind of unfortunate and unpleasant experiences earlier in life. I am the type of person who believes that stigmas in general haven't really done a whole lot of good for anyone. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty open about my battle with anxiety. It's a lifelong battle. I have ups and downs. I, anticipate that it's going to be something I'm working through every day that I'm alive. I am pretty straightforward about kind of abuses that have occurred in my past. I think that really what makes people feel trapped often, or what makes them feel just kind of hopeless, is the inability to really show the world who they are and to be fully transparent and honest. For me, authenticity is kind of the key to a healthy and fulfilling life.
I bet you didn't think I was going to put this up there. So everybody, I'm just delighted, but I'm just going to, you can't see this if you're on the podcast, but this is what Lisa, you wrote back several things, and I highlighted some things here because I wanted to really have teaching moments. So everybody, you heard Lisa talk about the anxiety and whatnot. Lisa, can you just read, I don't know if it's big enough for you to read that first highlighted yellow paragraph. It's better to hear it from you.
I think I can read it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've struggled with anxiety as well. There's a long history of mental illness in my family. I think my worries manifested in rampant insomnia, not the occasional sleepless night, but decades worth of agonizing nights spent awake, even though my body was completely exhausted. I wrote my first book when I was 8 years old, a silly tale about a rescued cat.
Chuckled there because there's a thing called your brain's a prediction machine. So I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but my brain, while you're talking, is trying to predict what is she going to say next? What is she going to say next? My brain's trying to tell me the reality of what's going on. I never expected you to say you wrote your first book at 8 years old about a rescue. And so when the brain has it's called a benign failure of prediction, it's just a benign failure. It actually chuckles, it laughs. So you heard me chuckle. So you're having an impact on me today. I'm blown away. Let's talk about that little paragraph for a minute, and then we'll get the book held up again. So struggling with anxiety, you talk about a long history of mental illness in the family. Help me understand a bit more about that? Because I have that thread in my family as well.
I think there was never an official diagnosis with a lot of the older generations. I think, first of all, they tried to sweep it under the rug. And second of all, even if there had been a diagnosis, they might not have believed it or told anyone about it. It was very much considered a shameful thing, which really makes me sad, because the truth of the matter is that it is common to struggle with mental illness. And I hope to shatter all of those barriers that we've erected to keep us from discussing the topic. But it's common. The CDC they estimate that half of adult Americans will have some severe mental illness manifestation throughout their lifetime. I would say that's higher. That's probably self-disclosed. So it's probably higher than that. It's not the exception to the rule. It is kind of the rule. And I think that we need to have dialogue about it. But for sure, my grandparents, especially on one side of the family, battled really severe depression, had a lot of obsessive behaviors and compulsions that were very toxic to those around them. And I think that type of thing, if left unaddressed and, if ignored, deliberately, willfully ignored, I think it has an impact on the next generation, and that has an impact on the next generation. It's that cycle, and it really takes an acknowledgement and like persistence to break free from it. And I hope it ends with me, because I am more than happy to talk about my experience, even the real tough part.
Everyone, we're into Lisa's story, and we're leading back up to the why she does what she does. So you heard a little bit about the generational mental illness and things like that. A second paragraph, something productive to do during those early morning hours instead of just losing myself to anxiety and self-criticism. Next paragraph, during early adolescence, I developed an eating disorder. I'd been a perfectionist my whole life, but that quest for so-called flawlessness has a dark side, especially for women who are under intense societal pressure to portray a very specific image. I knew I was damaging my body, but the addictive side of my brain did not care. In fact, maybe that was subconsciously part of my goal. I found healing through a deep connection to people and animals. Talk about that a little bit, just a little bit of that part of perfectionist and the body piece. What tells more about that?
It took me a few years to get to the point where I could actually talk about it and be open with it, because it was just such a deeply personal issue. And it was so hard for me to bare my soul, even to really trusted individuals, members of my family, my friends, because it felt like just this ridiculous failure in an area that should be so simple. My addiction was not to a substance. My addiction was to basically this lifestyle and this withholding of something needed for survival, because it gave me a sense of control and like a sense of peace, that there's one thing in my life that is 100% in my hands and no one else is impacting it. And it wasn't a conscious or deliberate effort. I mean, I played sports in high school. I needed to keep my nutrition solid because I needed energy. I was going 90 miles an hour. I don't sleep very much, as you know. It's really hard for me to sleep. So I definitely needed fuel and sustenance.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even a conscious decision. It was kind of it was sort of just the buildup of all of the pressure in my life, and then all of the areas that I feared I was insufficient, and all of the little messages that had been swirling around in my brain. I tried so hard to tune out the negativity. I'm such an empath. I am such an emotional and like just passionate individual. I tried so hard to tune out all of the nonsense and all the superficial stuff that was projected onto women.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's only so much of a wall that you can build until some of those messages filter past. So I succumbed to basically everything that I hated about society.
Yeah.
And then I had to work to pick up all the pieces, because I knew if I kept doing that to my body, I knew it would end only one way. And anorexia is actually pretty common. When I was at the University of Florida back in the early 2000s, at
Wow.
that time, that campus had, I believe, about 50,000 students total, and it was one of the schools in the entire country that had the highest rate of eating disorders among women.
I'm just amazed by that. So I want to just talk at you here a little bit. But before that, everybody, we've got an author here, Lisa Wilkes, who's written a book called Mid-Flight. Hold that up again, Lisa. Let's full screen you.
There you go.
All right. Look how beautiful that cover is. Tell me about the cover. What's happening on that cover? And by the way, I have one too.
So I think there's a lot of symbolism here. Obviously, the airplane refers to the fact that my two main characters both work for an airline, and they are free spirits and they're adventurers. But also, if you notice where the phase of flight is for the airplane, it is taking off and then coasting, right? So it basically symbolizes this union, this connection that is just taking flight. It's just getting started. And really, the possibilities are endless. That airplane is going to go, clear across the country potentially. And what Lexi and Jason can achieve by merging their talents and merging their passion is equally limitless.
Everybody, I'm smiling here. I'm going to just turn on another camera here so you can see. I'm so excited. I have this book here, and when it arrived, Lisa even wrote something to me in the front, which makes me so happy. I put it on my shelf. It's a keeper. So everybody, I want to highly recommend Mid-Flight. And first of all, authors, we aren't known. The way we get known is if you read and post reviews for our books. And so I'd like you to get her book and post a review on Amazon or Goodreads, the places that most people will post reviews. And get the word out there. It'll get the word out, and we'll hear more and get the passion of her story. Something in the back here, I just want to read this, that it says 2037 was a really bad year. Lexi Brendan's best friend was killed in a plane crash. 2 weeks later, an intergalactic crisis threatened the fate of humanity. Then it goes on to say Lexi opposed this vicious attack. Then again, what could she do? An eccentric flight attendant drawn to glamorous trysts? She felt powerless to incite change. If that doesn't get you excited, everybody, to pick up this book. So here's one of the things I want to just kind of tie a bow on, just from some of the things you've been sharing with us. This is some of the things that you wrote to me about the backstory. So everybody, just pulling this together, here we have a brilliant author with us, Lisa, who acknowledges her journey living, I like to say living well with mental illness, because there's no stigma to it. In fact, Lisa, one of the things I learned is that, about 80 or 90% of people will have some form of anxiety. Anxiety is, I got to share this with the audience. When I went through my cognitive behavioral therapy, just move this off the screen, Lisa, they actually taught me how to define anxiety by a fraction. You know what fractions are in math? And this is a definition of anxiety that I was taught, and we're going to hear maybe what you have to say about the definition you have. It's the numerator is the fear that bad things will happen, over the denominator, the fear that I can't cope with bad things happening. That's really anxiety. So my brain is always rooted in worry in the future, worrying about things that haven't happened yet, etc. And one of the things they told me is make human connection to other people. So let's go back to just some of the things that you were sharing with me. Lisa has chosen writing and also, rescue, pets. And there's some things that she's written here also about, you can see on the second page, it says relationships along with the commitment to service sparked the healing process. Over the years, I earned my master's in social work, and et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about that key point there. Oh, we have somebody with you there. Is that Kit Kat?
Yeah, I have a guest.
Hey, buddy. let's
so cute.
Let's full screen her with you. Oh, she's beautiful. What kind of a cat? Do you know?
She's so cute.
She's such
my
a doll.
little tabby. This is Kit Kat. Too. She was found in a bucket. As
my
a
goodness.
teeny kitten. She fit in my hands, and I was substitute teaching part-time, and one of the teachers had found her, couldn't keep her, and I said, you know what? This is a sign from the universe that meant to adopt a cat today. So I took her
That's
home with
amazing.
me.
I give you permission to keep her with you and just leave her on screen if you want. That's totally okay. That's why we're thinking. But
She does what she wants, so she will
okay,
return when she
I
decides to.
yeah, I've never had a kittens. I've had dogs, so I'm learning through you. But everybody,
Yeah.
let's talk about this and how you ever hear more from Lisa. So in your book, so you're starting to write in your work about social issues, and there's threads
Yep.
in your book that come through. Tell me about that. How are you
I
using
couldn't
that?
write I couldn't write a novel and not include all of the things that I had seen and experienced and talked about with people during my grad school internship.
Going back to, so you're writing about social issues and you're using that
Mhm.
work to do something meaningful. Tell me just succinctly what's happening there.
I just wanted to foster a sense of inclusion. I had seen so much. My grad school internship, I was working in the behavioral health unit of a hospital, and I had another book kind of that I was mentally preparing. My first
Yeah.
book had been accepted for contract. I knew that I was writing, another book that I figured it was going to be another lighthearted romance, just like my first one. I had the plot, but everything that I saw on full display, all of the injustice that had taken this psychological toll on my patients in the behavioral health unit, all of the ways that they had been abused, often by people in power, and often in ways that are legal because bigotry has been like codified into law. It is part
Yeah.
of a lot of our laws, and it is allowed and accepted. And I could not write another page without in some way alluding to the consequences of really extreme institutionalized injustice. I couldn't. I had this just very compelling force that told me, that first book that I wrote will always be my book baby. Flight Path's always going to be my book baby, but it is kind of just a fun little trek across the country that ends up in a romance. This time around, I knew I had to have something with kind of societal value and merit, and I wanted a book that didn't just take people on a quick carefree journey. I wanted a book that actually really fostered a sense of inclusion, respect, a
Yeah.
sense of empowerment that, whatever industry we work in, whatever personality type we consider ourselves, whatever addictions we battle, because Lexi has many of them, there are still ways that we can make an impact within our sphere. There are ways that we can stand up for what's right, even when the odds are stacked against us.
I was so taken back. I changed this image. Everybody were looking at the show art for the show, and I decided to play with the pictures and put you in a little bit of a black and white with the book there. Very compelling. One of the things I wrote on this was mid-flight, not just provocative storytelling. And so I want to get into more of the storytelling. When I read your book, and everybody, I've read the whole book, I just thoroughly loved it. I shouldn't say read it. I actually listened to it through a PDF reader because I have visual impairment from my concussion. But I just was gripped by the stories. It kept me going. But there's something that happened remarkably, and in certain stories, it actually got me emotionally into the story. You evoked in me other thoughts and in experiences from my own life. And so I've been fascinated by this. And as a fiction writer, I think you give the world a gift, in that you may not always realize, but you're telling a story that comes from within you, from your experiences and maybe what the outside world's given you. And it's such a well written book that way. But as you're telling it, do you ever wonder what happens to Tom when he's reading it? Is he interpreting my words and following my story as I've written, or is something else happening to him? So we're going to have some fun today and get you to turn to, I haven't set this up and read it. I've read the whole book, but you've chosen a passage that we're going to get you to read. And what we're doing here, everybody, is we're testing out my brain. And when she reads this passage, we're going to talk after about what actually has happened.
Where there had been ice, a bold flame now burned. It would grow and grow, Lexi knew. This was her biggest talent. Lexi had mastered clocks and brainwaves in one fell swoop. Maybe we don't need sleep after all. The kittenish quality of her own voice rang in her ears. Jason smiled. Will you hate me if you're exhausted tomorrow? Lexi shrugged. The beer had dried, leaving a sticky film on her sandals. Not if you make it worth my while. A buzz sounded in Lexi's ear, indicating Katie had sent a photo. The image flashed across Lexi's cornea. Cleo was perched on a windowsill behind the couch, a plush green toy dangling from her mouth. Cleopatra looked content. She was comfortable in Lexi's apartment, claiming certain spaces as her own, but nothing would ever compare to her previous domain, Lexi knew. The cat already lived in the best home, with the best human. She was the luckiest feline in the whole world until the day her father was obliterated on a flight that Lexi was supposed to work. A tidal wave of regret smacked Lexi, weakening her knees. She loved Cleo so much. Then again, the cat was a furry 10-pound reminder of Lexi's vast and unforgivable shortcomings. It was a complicated relationship. She glanced up at Jason, hoping to rekindle the flame inside her, but adrenaline had been replaced by something else. Emptiness, perhaps. A distinct sense of absence. Her veins ran dry as far as Lexi could tell. She was a shell of a human. The liquor was wearing off. Lexi knew she needed another drink to keep the sadness at bay. Autoscan flashed across her cornea once more. This time it was an annual reminder. The clock had struck midnight, which meant it was officially Jorge's birthday. She hadn't had the heart to delete the recurring date from her calendar after JR's death in 2037. Well, fuck. Lexi couldn't recover from this. Her mood had flipped, and there was no going back. Curiosity nagged at her. She didn't want to know. Really, she didn't. But also she did. Lexi swallowed. She willed herself not to speak, yet the burning question proceeded to fall from her lips. Jason, who did you lose that night?
Wow. That's just powerful. And so now I'm going to ask you just to tell me a bit about that. When you wrote it, what was going through your mind? Tell me a little bit more about it. Take me into that story.
So Lexi has spent at this point a year with just this deep, pervasive guilt. And, it's the middle of this pathogen being unleashed. So she can't even really connect with people, at least not in person, to kind of work through that guilt and be open and honest. There's kind of a distance between herself and everyone else during that grieving period. So she's battling grief. She's battling misplaced guilt. It's not her fault that the aircraft was struck by a meteor, but she feels so guilty because she was supposed to work that flight with her best friend, and she traded off at the last minute, and she feels like she basically abandoned him, and her life's work has been protecting the people she loves, and yet every opportunity that arises, she feels like she fails to do so. So it's kind of just, I was trying to capture how she loves this cat, but also the cat reminds her of all the things that she's done wrong, and really all the ways that she hates herself, all of the things that she wishes she could change about herself. And then obviously she has her go-to numbing preferences, the things that kind of help her alleviate more of the difficult feelings. But
there's something about beer.
They're not always available.
There's something about beer I saw there. And so Lexi is one of the main, I don't know how you refer to it in writing, one of the main characters. It's a she, correct?
Yeah,
and
she's the protagonist. Yep.
Protagonist. And that was a scene, and the cat was part of that scene, right? And so it's interesting. So I'm gonna just show you something. As you've been writing, or as you've been talking, and everybody, I've been making notes madly on my little paper here about things that you were saying and where my brain was going. So I'm gonna have some. You want to have some fun with that? Let me just.
Let's go for it.
Okay. So you don't know what you just did to my brain, but everybody, I'm gonna set this up. Here's what's happening. And believe it or not, what we take in visually from the outside world. So I'm looking at Lisa and I'm taking in audibly what she said. Only a small percentage of that actually is what my brain tells me is going on. It actually comes in because visually there's so much information. Our brains can't react fast enough. So we actually, about 90% of what I'm interpreting the story Lisa's telling me comes from within my neural nets of my own thoughts. And so my brain is fast trying to tell me, okay, here's how you got to feel. Here's how you got to react. But my brain is taking everything and it's trying to figure out from what's in me, what exactly am I seeing going on here? And this is the magic about storytelling. So now my brain is lit up and I'm feeling like I'm part of this story. And so here's some of the wacky things that I started thinking about. You talk about the pathogen and feeling guilt and grief that for when I had a brain, I'll go back to, I wrote about in my book that, gosh, it goes back maybe 20 years. I was a high performing chief executive officer and everything was going well. And some dramatic changes happened in my life. One of them was my family got caught in a Ponzi scheme, which you might be familiar with this. One of these sick things that people do, right, to rip you off. Mm-hmm. And we lost our home and we lost things. And one of the things this is what your story evoked in my thoughts, believe it or not, right at this moment in time. And it's not a bad thing, by the way. But what happened was, Lisa, is back then, because I was financially well, I had bought an apartment for my senior mom. And I have a brother who's got Tourette syndrome. And I love my brother, but he was living with her and it became very difficult. There was like senior maltreatment. So my mom was calling me. So anyway, make a long story short, I ended up buying an apartment. And I thought, my brain said, if I can put my mom in it and then my brother wouldn't be there. When we hit the Ponzi scheme, I was just so ashamed. I felt so much guilt that I didn't tell my family what really had happened. And I ended up moving my mom out, selling the apartment just because we had to get rid of it. I never told the truth. And a big part of it was about this guilt and shame. So I carried that for a long time. And I took a lot of grief from my family for about a decade until I finally came to terms with it and found the courage through some therapy, to be able to actually explain to my mom what really had happened and apologize to her. A couple other things. You're talking about the beer. It reminded me of some of the darkest moments in my own story where I was struggling as a high performing business leader, but I was dealing with these voices in my head because I dealt with a difficult childhood. So I would see on the outside world things that were not quite true. So when you start talking about your story, for whatever reason, I went back to this this moment where my dad had an affair. My dad left home and he went traveling, and we used to hang out with three young women, or they're women now, but three young girls. And these were the children of our doctor. So we had become friends with our doctor. And I remember being at their house and we were baking cookies, and they had these tiny little kittens. They had a bunch of these kittens. And for whatever reason, I was playing with one of the kittens, but I was quite mean to it. I probably did some things I shouldn't have done. I kind of shoved one of the kittens, and I was really angry with this kitten. And so I don't know if your story is teaching me something, but it unlocked that this happened maybe 40 years ago, that I remembered being in the home of these three girls and the exact moment in time when my parents were separated, and we just were surviving just to get out of the story and this little kitten. You can see what's happening, right? All these amazing little threads are coming out of me just from you reading that one paragraph in your book. And I think this is the power of your work, Lisa. And I know I want to say thank you for letting me dominate there for a minute. The gift that you have is by that passage, you're giving me some hope as well.
I really want to resonate with people, and I want for people to feel seen, heard, understood, for them to kind of take a closer look and really examine different experiences and things that are related to any of the topics in the books. I am not so interested in I've never been motivated by having commercial value. It's not like the dollar sign that matters to me. It's not the marketability of the book. It's the way that it can resonate with people and connect with people. And that's kind of what fuels me most of all. And that's why, my books are hybrids. I don't fall into a specific genre. I don't write tropes, which are tired old stories that have been done before. I write original pieces that I really hope will sit with my readers and will inspire them and cause them to think differently about the world and to reevaluate some things and to remember things.
Exactly.
And for me personally, the best coping mechanism that I've found, the healthiest one, because I have many, some are destructive, some are a lot more beneficial. But I think the best one for me, and it is part of the reason I started writing books at age 8, is to find and take pride in my sense of purpose. And for
Yeah.
me, that is connecting with others, animals and humans alike. I am deeply empathetic, and I like to alleviate suffering where I can. I
Yeah.
like to express myself through the written word. I like to use that for a really great cause. My books, when they sell, I donate my royalties to animal rescue. So I'm not really interested in making money off of this.
That's
I'm interested
fantastic.
in kind of leaving an
Yeah.
impact, and helping out where I can.
That's fantastic.
But I think for me, the healthiest coping mechanism I can ever have is really chasing after and valuing and applauding my sense of purpose. Because without that, there have been moments in my life where, I've felt disconnected, or I have felt so overwhelmed by anxiety, or my insomnia is so rampant that I can't even, think clearly. And that's when my sense of purpose becomes a little hazier, and I feel more disconnected from what fuels my soul, from the
Yeah.
motivations that kind of keep me going. And so when I reconnect with that and I can see the difference that I'm making, I can see the people that I'm impacting, I can see the way that people really appreciate the words that I've strung together in these novels, I think that rejuvenates me and keeps me moving forward even when the situation gets sticky.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about you today, celebrating. Hold up that book again, everybody, with Lisa Wilkes, who's the author of her second book here, Mid-Flight. What a beautiful cover, and there's so much going on there. So you got me emotional, but this proves my experiment. And when I produced this show, I used you as the guinea pig, that you probably didn't know you're going to be meeting a guy like me, and you're going to be reading a passage of your book, and all that was going to come out of me. And it's actually ended up freeing me and putting me in a space where I finally figured out what was missing. And now I'm going to go out and get a rescue pet, and I'm going to actually get to relive my life over again because of you. So thank you so much for teaching me that through your story. And that is what makes you and your work so awesome. We've learned so much from you today through your work. Any last words for us?
I just want to tell people to be proud of who they are, and to, take the hostility for what it's worth. It's a real hostile climate out there right now. I'm working to fight against that, but there is a lot of aggression and a lot of violence toward folks that have been kind of set in the background of society, for very unfair reasons. So just keep being you, keep doing your best, know that you are loved and supported, and know that my current book and my future books are going to foster a sense of inclusion. My goal has never really been a self-serving one. I just want to enhance this world, to leave it a little bit better than I found it. And
Yeah.
I guess my words are kind of my favorite way to do that. So my website's my one-stop shop. It has my books. It has all of my creative ventures. And again, all the money that is raised through those crafts
Yep.
that I do, the artwork that I make, it all goes to animal rescue. So that website is the one-stop shop. It's my full name, so
Yep.
lisamichelewilkes.com. And you can find anything you're looking for there.
I'm going to honor you with these four leadership words. Okay. The first one is resilience. As those who maybe just joined us later or will see this, this is a woman who, took the points in her life and turned it into something significant to go out and help others. You have this amazing ability to deal with things. We just learned that today on the show about the sound glitch we had. So you are resilient. That's a leadership trait. Number 2 is patience. Hopefully you know that. You might have learned that from your cat. But your patience is unbelievably awesome. Number 3 is wisdom. They say the difference between knowledge and wisdom is time. And so, Lisa, you've given us so much. What I also like is you're a flight attendant and you've actually traveled the skies, and you have experiences that you're putting into your writing, pulling in all the social issues. That's amazing. And the last one is love. Yeah, it comes out of you. I feel like I could relate and talk to you, but when you were saying things about your work and situations, you come across as somebody who generally loves people. So you're going to get an award right now, and I'm just showing everybody here. All right, everybody, I'm just going to do this and then bring Lisa back on so we can. So this is, if you can see that there, Lisa, I know you're still there. The audience can't see it, but these are called challenge coins. They were started in World War I, and they're hand painted and crafted. I had this designed, raised lettering. They're beautiful. And the front of it is the art for the show, and there's some key words around it which are meaningful. But on the back is the fully illustrated narrative of the hero's journey, which is about storytelling and the power of that to the brain and drawing people in and making us always remember you and your stories. So today, I'm just going to bring you back on the screen here with me. We're inducting you into the Quiet Warrior, I call it the community. So congratulations, Lisa, for being part of that. These coins now are carried. We have about 17 countries, and only 40 go out a year in a population of 8 billion, because not too many people will come on a show and demonstrate how they've taken adversity in their life, turned it into a gift, and they're actually helping people every day. So welcome to the Quiet Warrior Tribe.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
All right, so there's some fireworks celebration for Lisa, who is an amazing author and just inducted into the Quiet Warrior Tribe. I'm going to give you a virtual round of applause. Hold up the book one more time, and I'm going to make one more commitment to you. We're going to full screen that. Mid-flight, everybody, Lisa Wilkes. I'm sure there's more coming from this author. And so I'm announcing today that I've written a 5-star review for you on your book. I loved it, and I'm going to be creating a JPEG for you. It will be up on Amazon in the next day. So congratulations, everybody. You got to get this book and check it out. So everybody, you want to live your life with passion and purpose like you see Lisa does, and live the life that you deserve and desire, and pick up that book and give it a rating. You're going to have a great experience reading it. Lisa, thanks so much for being here. And I'm going to have you back again, I know, because there's so much more we haven't talked about.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca